Well, good morning, Connor.
Good morning, George.
Good morning, BCC. It's great to be with you this morning as we finish off our Out of This World All-Age August. Hands up if you think it's been a great month. I'm pleased to see that. Yes, it has been great. We've tackled some really interesting topics, as they said earlier. We've tackled stars and the galaxy, aliens, which was super cool, and then rocket fuel last week. And then today we're talking about angels. Angels are all through the Bible, but we very rarely have a talk on angels. And I think as Connor and I have prepared, we realised why. Because it's incredibly easy to do a presentation of information about angels. But our real hope and prayer is that this morning you go away feeling encouraged, and also you find out some cool facts as well. And it's not just all information, but actually speaks into our lives as we go. So, what is there to know about angels? Well, Paul tells us that in Colossians that God created all things, visible and invisible. So, God created angels. And when we talk about things that are out of this world, we've included angels, I think, because we can't really see them. They're in a realm that's an invisible realm around us, very, very real, but we can't see it. So, that's probably why it fits in well with this topic. Billy Graham calls angels God's secret agents. Now, I'm really sorry, but we were actually planning to dress up as like the Men in Black for this, but I let the side down because I didn't have the appropriate suit. So as we go, we'll unpack a little bit more probably about why Billy Graham refers to them as God's secret agents. What else do we know about them? Well, we know there are lots and lots and lots of them. Quick maths question, without using a calculator, what is 10,000 times 10,000? Hands up if you think you know. Mylan. 100 million? Well, yeah. I thought that would go on a little bit longer, but hey, that's cool. Mr. Brainbox over there, very good, very impressive. There are at least 100 million, and that means there are a lot of angels. And we're going to find out a little bit more about angels as we go now. So I'm just going to hand over to Connor, who's going to then give us some biblical examples of where angels show up.
Yes, so we're going to do some stories. Now, if any of you have been with us at Christmas, you know we like a bit of dramatic reenactment of the Bible. So I'm going to pick some volunteers, and you're going to come up, and you're going to reenact the scenes for me, if that's all right? Yeah? Wonderful. Now, our first story is about a man named Elijah, and I think Elijah was rather confusingly also named Jonathan. So if you could come up, please. Yes, thank you very much. And we're going to need an angel. Mylan, would you like to be our angel again? Again? Yeah, come on up. We'll keep the same angels. Keep it simple. All right. Now, Elijah is a prophet, and he is currently on the run from a man named King Ahab. Jonathan, you are running away. All right. Now, King Ahab has done a rather horrible thing and killed a whole bunch of prophets. So Elijah is scared. He is terrified. He has been on the run. He is weak. He is tired. He is weary. He is producing alien noises from somewhere. And he really feels weak and powerless. And that's when we come to our first Bible verse, 1 Kings 19, 5 through 8. All right? Then he lay down under the bush and fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, "Get up and eat." The angel touches him. And the angel says, "Get up and eat." Wonderful. He looked around, and then... No, that's not where I am. And there by his head was some bread baked over hot coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank, and then laid down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and touched him and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey ahead of you is too much." So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled for 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God. Thank you very much. You can go back and sitting. Thank you for a wonderful performance. Thank you very much to our angel. And that was a really important moment when he was able to be guided and strengthened through God and helped by the angel to get to Mount Horeb. It allowed Elijah the time to pray with God, to commune with him, to sit and feel renewed by the Spirit of God. It helped him find the strength to deliver God's message again. All right, now on to our next story. Now, our next story is about a man named Zechariah and his wife, Elizabeth. Now, I think Zechariah and Elizabeth also went by the name Stu and Tess, if they would be happy to come up. Yes. And I think we'd like to see the return of our Angel Keeley, if you're happy to come up. Oh, no, Amelia, sorry. That's my bad. You don't have your usual labels that I see in children's church. Do you want to be our angel? Yeah? Come on up. Wonderful. All right. Now, our story is about a man named Zechariah. Zechariah is a priest in the time of King Herod. He's married to a woman named Elizabeth, and they're an older couple who are unable to have children. That is no insinuation on them. Now, you're welcome. Now, Zechariah was serving in the temple when we have our next encounter. That would be, lost my place again. Luke 1, 9 through 25. He was chosen by priestly custom to go into the Lord's temple to burn incense, and all the people were praying outside the temple while he was burning. You are all praying and burning incense, please. All right. Then to the right of the incense altar, an angel of the Lord appeared, and Zacharias was troubled and overcome with fear. Zechariah, you are overcome and troubled with fear. Angel, you're appearing to him. All right. Then the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. God has heard your prayer. Your wife Elizabeth will have a son, and you will name him John. He will be your pride and joy, and he will be a great man. He will never drink wine or any other liquor, and he will be filled by the Holy Spirit before he is born. He will bring many of people of Israel back to the Lord their God. He will go ahead to the head of the Lord with the spirit and power Elijah had. He will change parents' attitudes towards their children. He will change disobedient people so that they will accept the wisdom of those who have God's approval. In this way, he will prepare for their Lord." Now, you've heard this news. Zechariah, just be overcome with how great it is. Now, Zechariah said to the angel, "You're a little disappointed now. What proof is there of this? I'm an old man, and my wife is beyond her childbearing years." The angel answered him, "What proof of there is this? I am Gabriel. I stand in God's presence. God sent me to tell you this good news. But because you didn't believe what I said, you will be unable to talk until the day this happens. Everything will come true at the right time." You're just going to have to be quiet for the rest, unfortunately, Zechariah. All right. Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zechariah, and they were amazed that he was staying in the temple so long. And when he did come out, he was unable to speak to them. So they realized that he had seen a vision in the temple, and he motioned that he was unable to talk. When the day's service were over, he went home, and later his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and didn't go out in public for 5 months. She said, "The Lord has done this for me now. He has removed my public disgrace." Now, this is one of my favorite purposes of angels in the Bible. You can all go return to your seats. Thank you for our wonderful performers. And these angels appear in the most literal way. So the word angel means messenger. They are traditionally the messengers of God. And this is particularly great news to be delivered to anybody. And now that we've heard this great news and shown kind of what angels can do, what else can angels do, George?
Thank you, Colin. Angels can do an awful lot, and they do an awful lot through the Bible. So let's start with this one then. So angels announce things about the birth of Jesus. So we've had a bit of that there. They also show up to Mary, and they also show up to Joseph, and also the shepherds as well. Imagine that. You're just looking after some sheep, and then all of a sudden, bam, angel. They ministered to Jesus in the wilderness with his 40 days. So you could summarize a lot of these things around service. They come and they serve God's people. And they remind people of God's promises to them. They rolled the stone away from Jesus' grave, so they help. They opened prison doors for the apostles. They performed mighty acts. They directed evangelists on where to go, like Philip. They spoke to unbelievers like Cornelius about where they should go and find the gospel. And I found this one particularly interesting. We were at the youth camp a few weeks ago, and there was a person who was speaking who's involved in student ministry, like globally. And she was encouraging us that she said the amount of uni students that are turning up to churches and saying, hey, someone appeared to me in a dream telling me I need to go to this building and I need to hear about Jesus, or I need to get my own Bible. And she said that this is happening like far more in the last 18 months than it had at any time before that she can remember in their ministry. So that's really exciting, isn't it? God is showing up in people's dreams and showing people the way to go. And then they come with Jesus when he returns, again, in power and bring revelation. So what have angels been doing since Bible times? I'm sure a lot of you may have stories of angelic encounters. I know a few of you who have told me different things, whether that's a dent in a car where you believe an angelic being has stopped the car from flipping in an accident. A random person who no one knew worked in that particular area, but they showed up at the right moment and the right time to pray and see deliverance. I've heard stories from history. Some of my favourite ones are from the World Wars, where you hear of stories of when the enemy was in the ascendancy. They were marching forward. They had all the advantage in the world, and then all of a sudden they just dropped their guns and surrender. And when you ask them why, they said, "Oh well, we saw this army of people behind you." Maybe an angelic encounter. Even if you look at the D-Day story, there was a lot of stuff that's unexplained in that, and a lot of people at the time and people who've documented stuff have said that there's obviously been something that's happened somewhere that's caused this change of strategy that makes no sense, that has allowed this group to win. You can look at stories of missionaries. I remember my mum reading a story to us. I think is it George Muller who had the orphanage? Yeah, and he was running this orphanage, really like full to the brim of orphans, and they had no money and they just run out of food. And so he said, "Hey, we've got nothing. He said to the kids, let's all sit around and let's pray." And then 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door. And it's the milkman, and the milk cart. My milk carton is broken down outside your orphanage, and all the milk will go to waste. Can you possibly use it? And there's stories like this in our church history. We have a rich history of stories where there's been some divine angelic intervention in those scenarios. And one of the things that I wanted to suggest, and reading those, just a few of those examples, they were all predicated by God's people praying. Whether it be a national day of prayer in some of the world wars, or whether it be the orphans sitting around the tables with nothing to eat. Jesus is waiting for us to ask for stuff so he can send his angels, or as Billy Graham would say, his secret agents, to go and intervene. Roger was telling me he'd been chatting with one of his pastor friends about angels and asked him, "What do you think about angels? What would you say?" And he said, "I think angels are pretty bored." Now, I don't know what you think about that. That may be a bit of a controversial thing to say, and thankfully it wasn't me that said it. So, but I think there is something to it, and it's something interesting for us to reflect on, that angels are sitting there waiting for God to say, "Go." And God is waiting for us to say, "God, come, help, change this situation." So I think there's a reminder for us there. I was so struck recently, there's, going off piece a little bit here, but I was reading a post by Pete Gregg, who's in charge of the 24/7 prayer movement, sort of set that going. And he did a post on Instagram a few months ago now, and he was just listing stuff that was happening around the world, like an incredible amount of people getting baptized at Easter, very unusually large number, particularly in some places like France. They saw a massive amount of people coming to faith and getting baptized on Easter Sunday. And there was loads of stuff that was so inspiring, and he just wrote at the end, he's like, "If you haven't seen any of this, then this is your call to start praying about it. Because we all want to see this stuff, don't we? So that's the encouragement, I think, that I felt. The angels are bored, waiting. Connor, what else did you want to say?
All right, we got a few more verses I want to go over that I think are really important about the subject of angels and kind of the impact they should be making on our lives. The first is Matthew 18:10-14. See that you do not despise the little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of the Father in heaven. What do you think if a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away? Will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about the one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing to let any of those little ones should perish. I think this passage is really important about the role of angels that they play in our lives. You're going to sin. You're going to wander from the path that God has set for you. You're going to mess up, and you might feel bad about that. You might feel horrible. But the angels that are constantly around us, waiting to support us, they're not going to see shame. They're not going to feel disgust. They're not going to feel hatred of you for the wrong that you did, because they love you. They see the face of the Father in you. They see that little bit of you that God created, that spark that all of us have that'll lead us back to the path. And they want to encourage it. They want to protect that path. But they need your help. They can't just do it on their own. You got to pray first. You got to go to God with it. You got to say, God, I messed up. Can you send me some help? Can you protect me from these things? And they're just bursting at the seams, ready to come and help you. The next one I want to talk about is Hebrews 12:21-22. The sight was so terrifying that Moses said, I am trembling with fear. But you have come to Mount Zion, to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You have come up to thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly. This one's about our fear. It's about our scaredness to come back to the path of God, the fear of rejection that we face at every turn. God ain't going to reject us. He's not going to do it. Whenever we come back to God, when we say, I need that help, He's assembled thousands of beings just there to praise and worship and say, that is amazing. That's a fantastic thing. That is the best news I've heard ever. That's all He wants. He wants you to be able to come back to that joyful assembly, and the angels want to be there at that joyful assembly for you. They want you to overcome your fear, to come to God, and to recenter your life around Him. I want to finish with the final few thoughts. So I think me and George have done a pretty good job at saying angels are pretty cool. We've heard a lot of the things they do. They stand up and face armies. They have flaming swords. They fight dragons. We didn't get into that, but they do. It's very cool. They can disappear in the blink of an eye and appear somewhere else entirely, and they got to deliver the greatest news that has ever existed and will ever exist to us. Some of the not greatest things around, and they got to bring that message to us. That is fantastic. I would be honored. It would be the highlight of your life to be able to deliver that message. They are awesome beings. But God doesn't love them more than He loves you. He loves you guys so much that He commands these beings of great power, of great ability, to serve you, to love you, to protect you, to feed you, all because He loves you. He demands that they love us as He loves us. But He needs something from us so He can call in that Calvary, that He can call that help to you, that He can get you that protection, that food, that nourishment. He needs your prayer. He needs your admission of coming back to God. And He is just waiting for you to pray so He can give you the might of the entire host of heaven, the host that can trample armies, that can protect any situation, that can feed thousands. He just needs you to pray to Him so He can send in that wonderful and powerful host. Thank you all for listening. You guys have been fantastic today, and what a great God.